Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Liam Maguire here for the first official inaugural version of the Montreal Forum with Liam Maguire, a webcast coming to you weekly, courtesy of our parent body, if you will, HabCast, run by Grant McCagg, and he's producing this show today. And what a way to start. You can see him on the screen, the big bird, the legend, the six-time Stanley Cup winner with the Montreal Canadiens, 4 additional Stanley Cups, Norris trophies, Conn Smythe, Hockey Hall of Famer, Team Canada. There isn't anything he didn't do in the game, and he's joining us on the Montreal Forum, the rink that was his home rink for so many years. Larry, welcome to the show. It took a little bit to get you here, buddy. All our fault, but man, are we thrilled. Am I thrilled to have you? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself, Liam. It wasn't your fault. It's modern technology just got in the way. But thank you very much I'm very honored to be on your first one.
Well, I couldn't think of a better guest on for a lot of different reasons. We go back a long way. I met you as a boy before you even had any sort of formal meetings. But I've told you the story about when, long before, Larry, that you became, I think it's fair to say, an avid golfer. Long before you were playing polo, you played fastball. And you were a great fastball player for a team called the Turpin Pontiacs. I want to ask you just about that for the first question, because this was a summer activity that you played with some of the greatest names in the region of Ottawa Carleton. Can you just speak to your time with Turpin for a minute?
Well, yeah, I guess it all started long before Turpin. I mean, myself and my brother and my late brother teamed up with some fellow neighbors and a couple of cousins, and we had the Marvelville team that played out of Russell and then later on Osgood, and we used to play ball tournaments all over the Ottawa Valley. And it was through that I got introduced to some of the better ball leagues, and so for tournaments and that kind of stuff, they used to pick myself and a couple of the other guys that played for Marvelville up and play in tournaments in some of the senior leagues. And so I got started through that. Originally I was a pitcher, but right. when I went to the senior league, they had enough pitchers. They were kind of out of my league as far as pitching goes. So I was put into center field, and then I played center field for them.
Well, I grew up on the Cars Road, and they had a good intermediate team, the Cars Aces. And I wonder now, I've always felt, because this was the summer you were drafted by the Habs in 71, and I believe you came to play a game. We were told Larry Robinson was going to be in Cars. The diamond was filled, and you hit a home run. It may not have come down yet.
It's funny, I was a power hitter, but I never pulled the ball all that much. Most pitchers, if they didn't know me, would throw a changeup, and I usually waited on the changeups because I hit everything to the opposite field. I'd say probably 80% of my home runs were to the opposite field. I was a left-handed batter, so I kind of waited till the last second before I committed to the pitch. So if anybody threw me a changeup, then it usually went around middle to upper part of the light standards in the right field. But I enjoyed playing ball. In fact, one summer I think I played close to 64 games of fastball that summer, and we ended up going to the All Ontario Finals in Kemptville, and we got beat by the Oshawa Tonys, who eventually went on to represent Canada over in I think in New Zealand somewhere. So
I remember that team. I remember them, and I remember some of those fastball teams. And anyways, I thought I would open with that. This time, the first time I actually physically saw you when you came into Cars, and it was the summer you were drafted. It was just a couple of years ago now. But listen, it's just a thrill to have you on. We did an interview. I did an interview with you this summer in Prince Edward Island. This whole thing came together very quickly when Noah Dobson was one of the biggest acquisitions, right, this summer at the NHL trade deadline, or right after the Montreal Canadiens. And you and Noah came up on stage together, and I thought that was just fabulous. You representing the 70s and 80s Habs, and here's Noah at the age of 25 trying to make a a new home for himself here in Montreal. Could you talk a little bit about that, Larry, about what you think might be the most important things for him coming into Montreal, not as a rookie, as you would have had to do coming out of the American Hockey League, but what do you think should be Noah's thought process here as he joins the Montreal Canadiens at this time at 25?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to try to be yourself. I can't really make a comparison so much as to when I came to Montreal, because like you say, I mean, I was a rookie and, I was just trying to prove myself, and I had a lot of really great players helping me out, like Serge and Guy Lafleur and so on and so forth. So I think that for me, what he should be is just to be himself. I went to LA at the end of my career, and I was playing with Gretz, and I was trying to not play the way that I played and the way that I knew how to play in Montreal. I was trying to play more of the Gretzky kind of style, the run and gun, and that just wasn't me. And then finally, Rogie and Rick Wilson brought me into the dressing room and said, "Listen, Larry, we got you here in LA, not to play like Gretzky, to play like you know how to play." And it was probably the best advice that I ever got when I was out there. And then finally, I fit in. I just went back to my style and the way that I knew how to play. And so for me, that would be the best advice that I'd give to Dob, is that, play to your strengths. I mean, I think he'll be a great compliment to the young kid and that's already there. Because Dauber's a right-handed shot, and he's more of a left-handed shot. So I think they'll make a formidable duo, especially on the power play.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask you about Lane Hutson. I'm not sure how much if at all, that you got to see him play last year. Of course, he won the Calder Trophy, Rookie of the Year. He was right up there at the top of so many of the records that we haven't seen since guys like Larry Murphy and things of that nature in terms of assists and points and whatnot. Did you get a chance to see him at all, Larry, and some thoughts on his play?
Yeah, I did. I got whenever I could. I got to watch him a lot. I was very, very impressed with his poise, especially how he could move across the blue line. And not being a big player, I was even more impressed to see how he, avoided not getting hammered, but, still being involved physically and everything else. I think he's got a great head on his shoulders. He's got a good, quick release. And of course, I don't think there's too many that see the ice any better than him. He's got great peripheral vision and thinks the game well. So that's why even more so, I think that him and Dobson will be a good pair, because Dobson's got a friggin' rocket for a shot. And I think the other kid, Hutson, is more of a puck mover than a shooter.
Right. Yeah, he's a distributor. There's no question. I think his shot's deceptive, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of it this year. But you're right. It's not a bomb. We're not talking about Al McInnes here or Ally Frady.
No. But Dobson does. He can get it up there. I want to say he's a 100+ power shooter.
Yeah, no, he can move it for sure. And look, you mentioned Savard and Lapointe, and there's a lot of questions we have that I'm sorry, I got a little background noise in the house here, but I've got to talk to you about the big three. There's never been a team in NHL history, hockey history, that's had a defensive core like the Habs in the 70s with the big three. What was the success? You would say, okay, you're all so talented, but there has to be. Is there something else that you could add from your time there? And I know they're really good friends of yours, and we'll ask about Ken after, but his passing. But just talk about the big three before that, Larry, if you don't mind, about what you felt was maybe some of the reasons for the success that you guys had as defensemen.
Well, I think the combination is that, Serge was kind of more of a stay-at-home type player. I mean, he still had a lot of offensive points in that. But then you had Guy Lafleur, who was great on the power play, was a pretty good skater, had a great shot. And then I myself, I think I'd like to be thought of more as a more rounded defenseman. I could play offense and could play defense, but I took more chances because I was playing with Serge, so I knew I always had Serge there to back me up. And I think why we became more known as the Big Three is because there was always one of us on the ice at pretty well all times during the game. But forgotten in all this is their supporting cast, who was pretty damn good too. We had Pierre Bouchard was there, and Rod Langway, Brian Engblom, Rick Chartres,
Bill Nyra,
Billy Nyra, yeah. So I mean, we were known as the Big Three, but you can't take anything away from all those other guys that played with us as well. We couldn't do our jobs if it wasn't because of what they did. Yeah,
that's a great point. And really, we probably shouldn't go any further without getting your thoughts on Ken Dryden. Muzz was on the local radio here in Ottawa a couple of days ago talking about it. He said that he had sent his son to Ken's house in June, just a few short months ago, to get a jersey signed, and there didn't appear to be any issues. He went back and looked at the photos and said, yeah, maybe Ken wasn't looking his best, but I don't think anybody thought death was imminent. But what a legacy, what a career off the ice as well. Can you speak to Ken Dryden as a teammate and as a friend?
Well, I mean, nobody's more shocked than I was because I got up in the morning, and there's a gentleman here. His name is Jim Cooper, who is one of the owners of CanArm, which is a big company here, and they sell HVAC and everything else. They got places in China and all over the place. Anyway, he said, sorry to hear about the passing of your great friend, and then have the article. And I went, okay, yeah, it's another AI, one of these AI things. I'm not sure that's really what's going on. And then I'm trying to leaf through all the sports channels, and the next thing I know, as you said just recently about Murray Wilson, I got a text from Murray saying, "Did you hear about Kenny Dryden?" And I went, "Holy shit!" And I called my wife, and I said, "Hey, did you hear?" He said, "Kenny Dryden just passed away." She goes, "Oh my God, what?" And apparently, and I guess Serge was saying that he knew 2 years ago that he had got the diagnosis that he had cancer, but I never in my wildest dreams ever thought that it was this bad. And I saw him not this summer, but last summer we had the get together for the 76 and 79, the one that won 4 cups. We all got together, and Kenny was there and was awesome. I mean, he spoke. We had a little dinner together, and he spoke, and he got up and spoke, and like as usual, was very elegant and said all the right things. And he's so well versed. I mean, just a tremendous player, tremendous person, and so I mean, it's just hard to imagine him not being around anymore.
Yeah, it really is. I'll echo all of that. Not knowing him obviously anywhere near like you or Muzz or teammates did, but got to know him a little bit. Just didn't hear anything, and it was shocking news. Like 78 doesn't seem old anymore, really. You know,
I hope not, because I'm 74. I'm knocking on that door. I said, you know what? It's over the last, I'd say, Liam, the last 3 years, I think I've lost 12 or 15 guys that I've played with, teammates, or guys that I played in Canada Cups or All-Star games and everything else that aren't with us anymore. And it just goes to show you, you have to live every day to its fullest, and don't get upset over the little things, like not putting down your name for a golf game or whatever. So
nice.
That's our little joke, right?
I'm going to make that up. Believe me. September 23rd, I swear to God, if I have to carry you and Mo there on my backs, I'm going to get you to Rideau View's first tee on September 23rd.
Yeah, I know. Well, time goes by really quickly, and it just seems like yesterday when he was standing there leaning on that stick with that famous pose of his. And
Yeah.
he, like you said, it's not just what he did on the ice; it's what he did off the ice, and what he did in politics and everything else. He was just a tremendous ambassador for Canada.
Yeah, he really was. And I just wanted to go down one more road. I'm not sure how much you could really sort of delve into it looking back, but like you were there the season he sat out, right? I mean, it was basically your first full season, really, 73, 74. And Ken has the contract dispute with Sammy and sits out, and Montreal's goals against. I mean, God love the three who filled in, right, and tried to fill the shoes.
Tried to fill in, yes.
Yeah, they did. They did their best, right? I mean, Bunny, Wayne, everybody, Michelle, Plas, they nobody was not trying their best, but they weren't Ken. Did that show you guys just maybe, not saying you took him for granted in 72, 73, but I mean, it sure spoke to the difference of not having Ken Dryden.
Well, I mean, you can't take a goalie out of and replace him with somebody else that's going to have that caliber. But I have to admit we did take him a lot for granted because there were a number of nights when guys we as a team we weren't playing very, very well, and Kenny kept us in until we kind of regrouped and got our crap together that we started to play well. So definitely it made a big difference. But then, when Kenny came back after that 1 year, I think he played at about 218, 215, 218. And then when he came back, he tried to come in at about 210 and 2.8 or whatever. He thought he'd be a lot quicker. And it just wasn't the same Kenny. He didn't have that. If anything, it made his reactions a lot slower because I think it just he didn't have the strength to play the way that he wanted to. So by the time he regrouped and got the strength back, it took him a little bit to get into the groove of things.
Well, I totally agree with that, and I wouldn't have been able to say it that way because you saw it firsthand, and I think the stats kind of back that up. I mean, he left at 79 on a high note, very young man at 31 years of age, but he wasn't the same. I don't think he was ever the same as he was in that 71 to 73 time period, So we would. He was
good. Pretty darn good.
He was pretty good. He was pretty good. There's no doubt about it. And like we said, he's just talking about the goals against going from 180 to 240, basically with the same roster, and it really speaks volumes to his impact at that time. Coming back later, it's something we wouldn't have known. So I think he shared something.
I think our game as a whole though kind of changed a little bit because we were a little more defensive in 72, 73. I mean, we didn't have we had Flower, but we didn't have a lot of great offensive players. But then when we got into the 74, 75, 76 eras, that's when, Shuddy was scoring 60 and Flower was getting 50 and Mahav, I think at one point, the three of them finished 1, 2, 3 in the scoring. So our type of play definitely changed after. So of course, when you change that way, something's got to give. And I think that was more prevalent in why he had a higher goals against average.
Well, God rest his soul. One of the most impactful players in the history of the game, largely fueled too by his off ice because his on ice was just superlative. So I'm so glad you were able to share some insight there. I want to shift gears just a little bit, Larry, and do a little name recognition with you. Like Henri Richard, when you talk to guys, your career now being over the length of time it is and starting when it did, you had the chance to start with some guys who kind of, Yvon Cornway always called it, he played in that the two sort of eras of the Montreal Canadiens. He got right after the big run with the Rocket. He came in and he's there and he gets all of Beliveau and that group. And then he had the group with Flower and yourself and all the rest, right? You start, like you've got Henri Richard in the dressing room and guys like Jacques Laperriere and Frank Mahovlich. Can you talk to what it was like, you at your age in that room with those guys who had such an incredible history, a decade or more before you in Montreal and in the NHL.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a young kid, it's pretty awesome. I mean, they were kind of quirky at that time. I mean, Big Frank, sometimes you didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He'd be standing outside. We're ready to leave, and he'd be standing outside the bus, and he's looking up in the air. And then he walks onto the bus, and he looks at Scotty and goes, "You know what, Scotty? The Sparrows just came back the Swallows just came back to Capistrano." And we're all looking at each other, and they said, "What the hell is he thinking about?" But that's what you want about a big man. You talk about big, barrel-chested, strong man. He was just incredible. And then you've got Henry, Henry hardly said a word, but he kind of more led by example. But here's a guy that I think when I came in, he would have been in his probably late 30s, maybe early 40s.
Yeah, late 30s.
And he's still, I'm telling you what, a temper that if somebody did something to him, he wasn't afraid to stand up to them and give it back and what have you. And what I remember most about him is the game in Chicago when I won my first Stanley Cup, and Chicago was leading 2-0 with a couple of minutes left in the first period, and who scores but Henry just before the end of the period. And then we come out, got 2 quick goals. I think Réjean Houle and Mark Tardif scored, and then we went on to win the game. But it was Henry that turned the tide, and there was a reason that he wore that C. And of course, Ivan and I had actually hung around quite a little bit when we were on the road because we most of the guys wanted to go out and do a bunch of stuff, and Ivan and I would just as soon sit back at the hotel and have a beer and whatever. I know they went. There was one time we were staying up in at Lake Tahoe or something, whatever place it was, and a lot of the guys like to go down and gamble, and we're not gamblers. So we said, let's just stay here and we'll have a nice dinner and maybe a bottle of wine or whatever. Well, Jesus, Murphy, I think we had about 2 bottles of wine. We could hardly walk back to our rooms, and then next morning Scotty calls a meeting, and so Serge kind of hid me in the back, and Ivan was right beside me so that Scotty didn't see us, but we were so friggin' hungover, and we laughed about it after. He said, yeah, we're going to sit back at the restaurant and rest, but instead we just got hammered on friggin' red wine. So, but great, they're all great leaders, and what each one, maybe not so much Frank because he was a little bit different, but Henry and Ivan, and even Jacques Laperrière, they hated to lose. It didn't matter what we were playing, cards in the bus or scrimmage or whatever. They hated to lose, and I think that's what they, I guess, got across to us as kids more than anything else. Is where you're out here, you're playing to win. Yeah.
That's so well said, because obviously history can we can go back and look and see what they accomplished and everything else, but it's great to have some insight of a teammate, especially the stature that you rose to, kind of just coming right in sort of with them and after them, right? Henry retires in 75, and then the 4 cups in a row fire up. He got his 11. So
yeah, no kidding, 11. I mean, isn't that amazing?
Wow. Was a Rocket around? Do you recall when you met him? Or
I remember him. I just remember him coming in, a grumpy old fart, but kind of like us now, looking at these other young kids.
Right?
We did the same thing as they did, and they're making 4 times the money that we did, and so of course the Rocket comes in, and he knows what the guys are making now, and he knows what he had to do and go through when he was playing and got paid little to do it. So
right.
I wasn't always in a very good mood, but it was a massive of a man, and very, very, very well respected in the dressing room.
Well, there'll never be a better example of that than the final night of the Forum, right? Monday night, March 11, 96. Like, that ovation will stand the test of time. Yeah. And like Dick Irvin said, 95% of the people in the building had never seen him play. So it is incredible the impact he had. I just was wondering, you're playing with his brother. His brother had already created his own legacy, but the Rocket's the Rocket. Like when he rolled down the hallway or rolled around the room or something, or hey, Maurice, here's our defenseman Larry Robinson. It must have been. It just had to be cool. It had to be cool.
No, it was cool, but you know what? Having spoken to like Dickie Moore and all the other guys that used to come into the dressing room, the real I guess catalyst for that Montreal Canadiens team was Doug Harvey, because Doug was maybe the Rocket kind of finished everything, but Doug kind of controlled the way the game was going to be played. It was going too slow, he sped it up. It was going too fast, he slowed it down. And so I think that Doug had probably as big an impact on the winning ways of the Canadiens as anybody.
Yeah, I think that's well said too. And look at well, they may as well engraved his name on the Norris Trophy there in the first 10 years. So I mean, Red Kelly won the first one. Doug won 7 out of the next 8 or something. Yeah. So it's pretty
kind of like Orr did when he came into the league.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Larry, obviously not going to let you go without a quick comment about playing against the Flyers. And I've said to myself, and I said to Grant, I have asked Larry every single possible thing imaginable about the Schultz fight. So I just had one question for you about it. It was February 17, 1974. It's one of the most iconic battles. It wasn't one of these knockdown, drag him out 2-minute things, but the way it happened with the brawl, the end of the period. Here's my question for you, Larry, because I want to pose something that I've never asked you about before. It's a bit opinion generated too, but I feel that fight, see if you can answer that as honestly as possible, but I feel your fight against Schultz in that regular season game in 1974 laid some groundwork for when you guys played in the final in 1976 and swept them. Larry, there was only one fight in those 4 games, Mario Tremblay and Moose DuPont. No 2 other guys, either on Montreal or Philly, dropped the gloves. And I really believe that a lot of that was fueled because of what happened with you and Schultz 2 years earlier in 1974. I don't know if you can speak to it that way, but that's my feeling. I'll give you a second part of that. John Ferguson and Ted Green, a decade before you, the exact same thing. And what happened to the Montreal Canadiens then? Stanley Cup, 65, 66, 68, 69, 71. How much of that was fueled because Fergie was on the ice taking on anybody and everybody? And I think you set that table in 74. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, I mean, thanks, but I don't think that was solely it. I mean, I wasn't alone out there, Pierre, because it wasn't just Schultz on that team that was tough. I mean, Kelly was pretty tough too, and and Pierre did a pretty good number on him that same afternoon in the corner. But I think a lot of the guys after that happened, because guys that's all they used to talk about was Schultz. How tough he was and this and that. And so I think that fight, when I kicked the crap out of him, kind of made a lot of the guys feel a lot safer, because they knew, if something happened that I'd stick up for them or whatever. And if you look at it in that way, maybe you're right, but I don't know. I mean, I wish everybody hadn't jumped on. I would have really liked to see what would have happened if everybody hadn't jumped on my back. I would have had a little bit longer to do some pounding, but that's kind of the way it was. But I really believe, Liam, that what really turned the tide was the following year in preseason.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there.
We went into Philadelphia, and they put all their big guys on the ice, and we had Sean Shanahan, Glenn Goldup, Pierre Bouchard, Dougie Risebrow, myself, and they didn't even, I don't even know if they dropped the puck, or this might have been even in the third period. And
Larry, the game didn't finish. They didn't finish the game.
They called it with 5 minutes left. Yeah. And actually Moose DuPont was by our bench telling Scotty, tell him to stop, because Goldie was kicking the crap out of Schultz. Sean Shanahan was giving it to somebody else, and right there and then, I think if you wanted to really pick a time, that after that we kind of not had our way, but we kind of turned the tide with how the game should be played.
And hey, and listen, if any Flyer fans are watching this because they admired you, Larry, the way you played, at the end of the day, they went to 3 finals, they won 2 cups, and they were right back in the final in 80, right back in the final in 85, and right back to the final in 87 before they regrouped under Lindros and got another Stanley Cup final. So, the Flyer fans, it's just you changed hockey. You guys changed hockey in the late 70s.
Yeah, but you look back at their teams. They had Ed Van Impe, the Watson brothers, and Reggie Leach and Billy Barber and
Rick
Bobby
McLeish.
Clark and Rick McLeish. Yeah, they had some Ross Lonsberry.
Yeah.
Bill
Clement. Yeah, Bill Clement.
Billy Clement. Yeah. They had a really good, and of course with
Bernie Perron.
Yeah, that's not a bad goaltender. So you can say they were intimidating, but they had a hell of a team.
Yeah, no, they really did. It's I just had to bring up the fight. And I wanted to do it in a way because I've gone down every conceivable road with you about it, and I just thought from an impactful point of view. I didn't think it. I just really believe that Larry was. But you're right. That exhibition game was probably an exclamation mark. But I think it started with you that February.
No, that was a period. Mine was the exclamation mark.
Well said. Well said. Look, we got a few minutes left, Larry, if that's okay. Just fire a couple more at you. We got to get into a little bit of just two more things, really. The Ladder Cups, the Ladder Cup in '86, I should say. It was a great win. Patrick Waugh. It's really impossible to compare him and Ken, but could you just talk to being a teammate of both and winning a Stanley Cup with both Patrick Waugh and Ken Dryden and the impact they had, obviously, in that? Visually, we see the saves. We know they're both great, but in the room, even temperament, personality, goaltending, anything you can add about Patrick Waugh compared to Ken Dryden?
Complete opposite. Kenny never said anything, was very stoic and would sit there, and he was aware about what was being said around, and you could probably maybe count on both hands how many times he spoke up and said something, whereas Patrick a little more outspoken, a little more brashish, I guess is the right word, and I don't know, he could I think he was more acrobatic, whereas Kenny was more like an angle type goalie, and right. But in all true fairness, there was a different era of hockey too, where the pucks were moving side to side a lot more. But we don't win in '86 without Patrick. I mean, what he did in New York was just phenomenal. I mean, we got outshot 13-1, I think, in that overtime period, and that one goal was with Claude Lemieux. So we don't win without him.
Yeah, that's well said. I think he showed the rest of his career it wasn't a fluke, right? So he is.
Well, yeah. A lot of people ask me, because I coached one and I played with the other one. Who was better, Martin Brodeur or Patrick Waugh?
Right.
And I often say if I was going to go to war, I would take Patrick Waugh, but if I was going to win a Stanley Cup, I might take Marty.
Yeah, Patrick. Well, we saw that against Detroit.
Yeah.
You want to talk about rivalries? Larry, you got into coaching and you did it so successfully. I mean, you had obviously your time in LA, but it's your time in New Jersey where you went to the top as an assistant, as a head coach. I just two questions there for you. Number one, you replaced Robbie Ftorek, did you not?
Well, Lou replaced Robbie. I think it was just after Christmas. We had a pretty good team, but I don't know. Lou, he never tells you why, but I got a call when I was leaving to go to practice, and he goes, Larry, would you become the head coach? I decided to let Robbie go, and I would just hit me like a hit me like a brick, let's say. But I said yes, and then kind of the rest was history. But what I think what kind of turned it around is that I mean, I love Robbie. He taught me a lot when I was working under him, but there was just, you know, he kind of, and you can't, the one thing that I remember even with Lemaire is that you've got to treat everybody equal. And he was kind of giving the stars a little bit more freedom than he was everybody else. And the other guys, when you know darn well, when you get into the crunches, you need the soldiers too. You don't just need the gunners. So, and you know, I could, as being an assistant, I think you hear a lot more than you do as a head coach, because you got so many things. You're going here and you're doing this and your interviews and all this other stuff. So as an assistant, you keep your ears open. And I was hearing a lot of stuff. Oh, we don't have any leadership and so on and so forth. So first thing I did, the very first morning, I brought everybody in when I became head coach, and I go, okay, enough of this. Everybody's saying, we're this and this and this, and we don't have a leader. And I pointed and I looked right at Scotty Stevens, and I said, you want to know something? We've got the best leader that you'll ever have right here with Scotty Stevens. Right. I said, and I just saw Scotty just kind of perking up and whatever. And I think we became so much closer because I spent a lot of time with Scotty being that I was in charge of the defense. So, you know, I could see him when he come off, and I knew that when he was seething like that, okay, don't talk to him. We'll wait. We're just going to wait a little bit. And and the other thing, he didn't like to be told. He never liked to be told he was doing something wrong. So you would always approach him with, you know, Scotty, that was a good play, but if it was me, I would have done it this way. Yeah. And then as we kept going on, all of a sudden now he's coming to me. You know, Larry, you know, what if I did this? Well, what if I did it that way? Now he's telling me, and I went, right, I got it. So anyway, that morning when I did that, our team just took off after that. And I still to this day think that he was the best leader that we ever had, because if somebody wasn't doing the job in the practice, he'd be the first guy, and he'd friggin' lay him right out with his head down or whatever. And and then of course the what he did in important games goes beyond belief. Some of the hits that he did to change the series around. So it was a great experience for me. But as I said, I mean, I love Robbie. He really gave me a head start, and he was a good coach. He was just, hey, I kept a lot the same, but I also changed a few things myself. That when you become head coach, that's part of it, is bringing some of your ideas in. So it was good. It was a great run.
Well, your success is well documented, and so much so that St. Louis had you on board in 2019. And I know Binnington turned the lights out there after Christmas, and you guys rode that all the way to the Cup. And what an unbelievable final against Boston. But you know what a lot of people ask, people like yourself who are in the game and then go coaches, what, if anything, did you take from any other coaches? And you played for Scotty, and you talked to a lot of the guys in any era, and especially in your era, because I don't think he was the same coach, say, in Detroit, maybe even Pittsburgh, that he was in Montreal. But did you take anything from Scotty or Pat Burns or Jean Perron or anybody?
Well, I took more from what I learned from Lemaire, because I mean, I was friends with him and played with him for a number of years, and then he was the one that kind of brought me in, and so I was involved a lot more with Lemaire than I was anybody else. So I took a lot of the things that he taught me, and the one thing is, I guess the main thing was, he said, remember, Larry, when you're talking to these guys, think of them as if you're talking to a 9-year-old. Because if you can get a 9-year-old to understand what you're saying, at least these guys will understand what you're saying. So I kind of, that was probably the biggest thing that I took from Jacques.
Last two questions for you, Larry. I can never leave you without asking you about Flower. because he had such an impact on my life. I got to know him personally and did some amazing things with him and him for me. And I have to ask you to comment, please, if you could, about what it was like to play with him. And then I'm going to finish with a statistic question for you about your plus minus. But just a comment about Flower first, please, as our second last question.
Well, I mean, we were drafted the same year, so I really didn't get to play with him that much the first year. And then once I got called up, I got to watch him every day in practice and games and everything else. And what this guy could do on the ice and what this guy did off the ice was absolutely incredible. I mean, always had time for everybody. Was always there. He went to so many functions and did so many things. I don't know how he had time to even play hockey, but this guy would show up at training camp and basically, you know, you'd say, well, Flower, where did you work out this year? No, I had to do this. I had to go to this commercial and do this. And the next thing you know, he's has a cigarette, puts on his equipment, and he's the best player on the ice. And but the one thing I will say about Flower is he wasn't a thinking man's hockey player.
No.
In that, if Scotty had a new drill or whatever, wanted to do a drill to show the guys what we were supposed to do, he would have been the last guy on earth to ask to show how a drill should be run. And basically, having played, you know, on the same line with him for so many years, we kind of had it figured out whether Lemaire or Mahovlich were playing center or whatever. If we were going out the right side, it wasn't a throw it around the boards and Flower would pick it off the boards. It would be, you know, Serge would kind of hang on to it. I would come in behind and carry it out, or Serge would do a spinorama and carry it out.
Yeah.
And then if we went out the left side, of course, Shuddy was always there. And then we knew we had Lemaire. Lemaire was probably one of the best defensive all-around centermen that I ever played with. And he was always there for a good out for defensemen. But Flower, I mean, you made a pass to him, all it had to do was to be in about a 3-foot circle of his body, and he would pick it up, whether it was right side, left side, anywhere. And then, of course, the shot of his, I mean, he practiced it so darn much, he could pretty well put the puck wherever he wanted to.
Like, Larry, his greatest game by his own admission, Game 7 against Boston, 79, that Thursday, May 10th. I was in the building. I was there that night. When he scored to tie it, you're cruising across, like you've got your arms in the air. I think you're either the first or second guy to congratulate him. But like we're fans, we're cheering, like in the building. I'm going nuts. The building's going nuts. I never heard a building like that in my life. But as a player, now you've got the game tied. Are you thinking, okay, we've got it tied, we'll kill it, we'll go to OT? Are you able to still, can even a little bit of you be a fan when he scores a goal like that late in a game on a power play with his patented shot? You go, oh my God, he did it again.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what it is. I mean, with Guy, I mean, we saw that day in and day out. So anything that he didn't really surprise us. We were in awe of him every time that he stepped on the ice. He was that flamboyant and he was that good. I mean, he did it a lot. And it wasn't because people weren't trying to stop him, because especially the Bruins, they went out of their way to try to get him.
Yeah.
But he still, I mean, I don't know if it was that particular series, but we had a police escort because he was threatened during that series. So he was not only playing the game, he was playing under duress because somebody was trying to get after him. So I mean, that's the way he was.
Mike Milbury said he was going to kill him, and he shot the puck after a whistle on Cheesy. I think it was the year before, but it was the same time period. And you're so right, Larry. I've gone over time, so I have to finish with this one. This will be the last one. I cannot thank you enough being the first guest here on the Montreal Forum. Your plus minus. I mean, you're the all-time NHL leader, plus 722. I don't know how much stock you put in it, but it's an unbelievable number. And you're second to Bobby Orr for the single season mark. in 1977. You were plus 120. Can you just comment on, is that something you're very proud of? And did you actually have in your mind extra level of defensive thinking that, okay, I don't want to be a minus, or how much did that stat mean to you today?
No, I mean, I'm extremely proud of that. I mean, for defensemen, that's the ultimatum, because plus minus means that you're on for that many more goals for than you are against. So,
Right.
I mean, that's what defense is supposed to be all about. But I was very fortunate that year that we were that I was plus 120. I played with Pete, Steve Schutt, and Guy Lafleur, and that's the year that Schutty scored 60, and they had all three of them were in the top in scoring. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have a good plus that year, you might as well hang up your skates. So, no, I was, in fact, we had a reunion for the 76 Canada Cup, and somebody else brought that up. And Bobby and I, because Bobby and I were talking back and forth, and I said, yeah, I said, I thought I had a pretty good year, but you still beat me by a couple. And Bobby had a good laugh about that. But even Bobby knew. He said, yeah, but he says, you still have the record, don't you? And I said, yes, I do. I don't think, I mean, I'm not bragging wise, but I don't think anybody will ever even come close to that.
No. Well, the numbers, they just haven't been anything remotely close. And I think that is in part, and you're right, if you look at those teams, that 71 Bruin team, which ironically Dryden stepped in and beat in the quarterfinals, but they set 37 team and individual records that year. 399 goals for, and then the 77 Habs are the greatest single season team in NHL, maybe sports history. So you and him are product of those two teams, yet you went over and above your peers. So I think that's what's significant about that stat, in my own humble opinion.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So
I'll take that.
I'm giving you all the credit for that. And,
Thanks,
I'm giving you all the credit for, through our little bit of technical issues, our canceled golf game today, my fault, and we're going to make up for that. But I can't thank you enough, Larry, for being the first guest on the Montreal Forum. It's so much to me. I go back so far with your family. My God, I was at your parents' services when they passed, and I've got my own mother's coming up in a few days. Yeah. And I just I cherish our friendship, you and Mo, greatly. I knew your brother Brian. I've met your sisters, and I certainly knew your parents, and I could not think of a better first guest. And again, I thank you very much.
My pleasure, Liam. Anytime.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. Okay.
See you 23rd.
23rd, buddy. It's booked. It's booked. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. All right, Grant, I'm going to sign off here. If I guess we'll do that right now. I actually, right now, folks, if you're still watching, I'm heading to the airport to pick up another hockey player. You may know the name. His name is Goldie Goldthorpe. He was the impetus for the character Ogie Oglethorpe in the movie Slapshot. And we're taping this on Thursday, September 11th. God bless everybody who lost their lives or were impacted tragically by the events of 24 years ago, what's always referred to now as 9/11. And so keep them, please, in your thoughts today. And off I go to pick up Mr. Goldie Goldthorpe. This is the first edition of the Montreal Forum. It will have some different looks as we do a weekly. We won't have a guest every week, but I do have some people that I will be bringing on, including a member or two of the current Montreal Canadiens that I've gotten to know that I believe will be able to join us down the road as well. So we'll have more news on that as the season finally gets going. I think rookies were in camp today. We've seen the footage already, so much already this summer, but some today from camp at Demidov. I think I speak for all Montreal fans. We're so excited to see the team start this year and hope they have a good start and can hang into a playoff spot right out of the gate, and that these new players coming up and the ones that have been with us for a few years get off to good starts as well. I think we're on the verge here of something very special that doesn't automatically translate into a Stanley Cup, as we well know, but it certainly has us going in the right direction. And as I said with Grant on an earlier show, it's the most excited I've been about a Montreal team in about close to 20 years. And when we picked up Sheldon Surrey in that trade, and we had Plekanec really going, we had Markov, that era there was really, really good. It led into Carey Price coming and the good run there in 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in that era. Of course, our miracle run to the final in 21. And there hasn't been a lot to really get juiced up about. And I think all Hab fans are right now. So I hope you enjoyed the Larry interview. We know we had a little bit of audio issue, but Grant and I were messaging privately saying, let's keep it going. And he gave us some really, really good stuff there. So this is the tip of the iceberg. We're also, by the way, I'll finish on this note. Grant's plan, and I'm all in, is to get some of your questions on board here to me, to us, to the show. I think the other shows may be doing that as well, but definitely me. It's been a big part of my makeup of my life for 44 years is taking questions from fans, from hockey enthusiasts, and we're going to make sure we keep that going also. So keep your stick on the ice. Stay cool, like Larry said. Let's enjoy the moment because it does go by very fast, and we'll see you again next week with another edition of the Montreal Forum. I'm Liam Maguire on behalf of HabCast and Grant McCagg and myself. We'll talk to you next week. G'day.